Here to cover all things crime, history, and politics, we are At the Desk. I'm your host, Emma Goldkopf, and in today's episode, we'll be talking about the recent shooting of 2 National Guard members and exploring a review of the first year of President Trump's second term. We'll also take a look at Christmas-themed crime just in time for the holidays and take a deep dive into the history of decorating around the White House. And at the end, we'll play a fun bracket game of holiday traditions. Now come take a seat with us at the desk. Welcome back to ATD. It's time to send it over to the politics panel to discuss the recent shooting of several National Guardsmen. Over to you, Vita.
President Trump reacted to this by halting visas for Afghans and threatening some of their citizenship. This decision raised questions regarding the already tense debates over immigration. So now, Sam, let's bring it to you. What do we think about Trump's reaction to this?
Well, to go back to the shooting, I want to touch on this point. The fact that there were signs of his mental decline and there was nothing that was done about it. And we've seen it time and time again in this country where after the fact of a shooting, people come to the table, they're like, yeah, there are signs. His kids went to school disheveled when his wife was on trips. He was missing his monthly check-ins with his social worker. The people that he was closest with thought he was going to actually commit suicide. And yet again, nobody did anything about it. You know, it says 80% of the shootings that have happened in this country, there's been signs shown before it happens. And I think at some point, people need to start speaking up and there needs to be more of a initiative to get people to speak up so this stuff doesn't happen.
Right, Ryan?
So where do we lay the blame is the question that everyone asks, because this goes everywhere. So first, Trump is blaming Biden, but then Biden's aides are saying that it was actually Trump's administration who let him in based off of Biden's policy, which was written based off of Trump 1's policy. So we're all over the place with who to blame here. But the one thing we have to remember, as you mentioned, is number one, the warning signs. Number two, we lost 2 National Guardsmen. And J.D. Vance, this is not time to be separating the country and laying blame here. Even Donald Trump himself, even though has pointed the finger, has said many times that he feels for these families, terrible they can't go home for Thanksgiving, etc. J.D. Vance, when he was talking to the military, A, was not prepped on the situation that was actually going on. He did not give an up-to-date prep on it. And B, immediately laid the blame. It's time, especially for a guy like J.D. Vance who wants to be president, to put the partisanship aside and to look that we have lost 2 individuals who put their life on the line for this country. So it is important to remember and unify around the fact that around Thanksgiving time, we have to be thankful for what we have and to appreciate that we live in a free country and we live in a society where we are protected, but we also have to make sure that we better this society. Got to look at things like the Constitution. What's outdated in the Constitution? It's almost impossible to amend the Constitution with the kind of government that we have right now, right? You need 2/3 in both sides of the legislature. Congress,
since like the 90s.
Yeah, it hasn't happened in a very long time. Then also you need 3/4 of state legislators to ratify it as well. So it's probably not going to happen. But we got to look at guns and we got to look at mental health. Mental health, a little bit more fixable than guns, but I think we could definitely lay the blame on guns for a lot of these shootings. But that's more of a bigger picture thing. Moral of the story here that I'm talking about is we have to unify behind the fact that we got to be thankful this Thanksgiving time, this holidays, and we need to just appreciate these service members. And I think that's something that we're losing. We're losing the plot here just as a country.
Jackson?
Well, yeah, so we can talk all about the tragedy all day. Obviously, it's terrible for the families right around Thanksgiving time for this to happen. Obviously, loss of life, gun violence. These have been things that have been discussed for a long time. What I'm more interested in right now, for like future reference, is how is this going to affect Trump's national security? He's already deported 600,000 people approximately this year. How is this going to affect his stance on immigration, not just illegal immigration, but also legal immigration? And how is it going to affect the conservative movement? Because like you said, J.D. Vance's speech, it involved a lot of, giving blame as opposed to like just mourning. So I want to see like how mad the right gets and how far they go as far as like, he wants to stop migration from the third world, he says, temporarily pause it, which doesn't make sense. Permanently pause, I mean.
It's like declaring war on terror.
It doesn't really make sense. But I want to see how far the right goes with as a response to this happening.
I mean, I'm going to play the blame game a little bit, honestly, because this was a completely avoidable incident. If there was no National Guard there, this couldn't have happened. Trump has put these troops in harm's way by sending them into cities like this, where crazy people like the Afghan National can make acts of violence like this. I mean, a 20-year-old woman from West Virginia lost her life, and I think that blame kind of just falls on the Trump administration. But instead of thinking, oh, this was a bad idea, just putting our troops out in the open like this, he sent hundreds more in. They're all armed now, heavily armed, and now we're going to be sending troops into New Orleans, I believe. New Orleans, Chicago, and a few other places where I think only more incidents like this could happen.
J.D. Pritzker was actually on the phone with Zohran Mamdani about how to avoid the National Guard in cities. He's going to try and figure out a plan and devise a plan for how to avoid that, even though he's getting along with Donald Trump right now. I wasn't expecting that turn you were taking, by the way, when you were saying you're going to play the blame game. I wasn't expecting you to go, it's Trump and the National Guard being put in, because you think when you talk about the National Guard in a city, it makes it more safe. It's not always the case.
No, I mean, you increase the fear factor by sending the military, I mean, National Guard, whatever, into cities and just kind of creating a state of fear there, I would say. And I think in these situations, something eventually is going to break, and that's what happened here. And I can't imagine this. I would not be surprised, God forbid, if something like this happened again.
Well, I just think you're not wrong, and the rhetoric on both sides is just rather despicable. And, especially with the Trump administration right now, we're talking about immigration, and I get it. We have the legal immigration, and that's a whole different conversation. But when he's clearly pinpointing a certain group for one person's actions, that's when we're getting to the point of discrimination. And I actually fear for those minority groups in this country. I wrote down this, like we can go back to the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1888, or even, when we put Japanese Americans into internment camps in World War II. And I know that we're not going to internment camps here, but just the blatant discrimination against those two groups in America. And I fear that's what's to come next for people that are coming from South America and also coming from Afghanistan, because not everybody coming from these countries are bad people.
Right.
Did you make, oh, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I also, to both of your points, I think that the Trump administration knows that they've been receiving a lot of criticism about deploying the National Guard. And I think this is why there has been almost such a strong reaction and these kind of retaliatory attacks on the Afghan community. I mean, we're seeing this significantly, and now we're seeing this across, I believe, over 20 countries right now, or third world countries just got targeted for this kind of race-based attack on immigration. So I think it was kind of like a cause and effect situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, I want to address what you said. I wouldn't blame anyone but the person who committed murder. I don't want to sit here and blame the National Guard.
We can look at what decisions led to something happening. Is it not true that if the National Guard weren't unlawfully deployed in Washington, D.C., as ruled by a lower court recently, that this never would have happened?
Well, here's the thing, though. By you saying that, that means that there are already dangerous people in these cities. That means there needs to be more law enforcement anyways. There needs to be somebody there to enforce what's happening, because obviously National Guard, you could say it's too far. We can debate that all day. However, I still would never sit here and blame the Trump administration for taking an attempt at trying to help out crime and then blame him for someone else being murdered by someone else.
But remember, Washington, D.C., their crime is at a 50-year low before Trump sent the troops.
Well, clearly not low enough.
What about New Orleans? What about Los Angeles? So just sending the military into cities isn't going to reduce crime. It's going to, reduce petty crime, but it's only going to increase fear and lead to more instances of citizens, whether they be from Afghanistan or wherever, lashing out.
And I don't disagree with that point necessarily, but at the end of the day, this one individual was mentally disturbed. And whether it would be because the National Guard ticked him off or that there was just a Washington, D.C. police officer, this guy was spiraling for months, so it seems. So there would have been an act of terror of some sorts, whether the National Guard be there or not. I think that's a fine point, because, he was acting to try to put fear into this country. And, we don't know fully all of his motives yet. But I think if it comes out that he's working with a certain group or he was influenced by a certain group, that also will play a part.
I mean, I agree with what you said, too. You have to feel for these communities, because it's going to get a lot harder for them. I mean, they currently paused all asylum seekers right now, or put all decisions on hold. And he said some of the most disgusting things about Somalians today. He called them garbage. He called their country garbage. They have to go back there. We don't want them. Things of that rhetoric he has obviously used before.
I guess it's no longer the enemy within that he's worried about.
Well, they're within, I guess, but they're in the country.
He's not just focused on people coming in illegally, but also
Yeah.
people who are here legally and illegally, and deporting them by massive numbers, which is what he promised in the first place. But I think now he's going to have more of a hyper focus on who is within here, who came from other places. So legal and illegal immigrants who are here who don't work in American interests, I suppose, is what he's worried about.
I think that's a good point as well, because as much as you could say what you want about the Operation Allies Welcome program that let in these people that were fleeing from Afghanistan to America, but at the end of the day, supposedly they were vetted by the FBI and CIA. When they came to America, they were brought to a military base to be continuously be vetted. And when that's the case, they came here lawfully by America's orders.
They followed all the rules.
Right, they followed all the rules to the point. And I know, again, this is one singular case, and then you make it so everyone's problematic when probably most of them are just getting assimilated into our country and starting to work and have their families. And then we're just going to put all the blame because of this one guy's action on the entire community. That's wrong.
I mean, a white man shot Charlie Kirk. A white man shot Donald Trump. No one's talking about, white people.
Right. God forbid that
say.
it was an Afghan national that shot one of them. This country would be in disarray.
And that's why I'm frustrated with what J.D. Vance said, because J.D. Vance was quicker to Donald Trump to rush the assumption that it was immigration.
He's done this a few times now.
Yeah, he's done this a few times. He didn't even know that the second National Guardsman passed away, he's spoken after hour the death. I did not say that right. An hour after the death. That came out correct. Yeah, he spoke an hour after the death. Got it right again. And after he said that, as the person passed away, he continued to push the violent rhetoric and started placing the blame on people. And what I'm worried about now is, and you're going to say, Ryan, we're all the way over there again. Yes, we're going to be talking about courts. You want to know why? Because now he's going to ramp up deportations if he's really that frustrated with this. And if he ramps up deportations, you know who's stressed? The courts. And you know what that means? We're just shifting the problem.
But do courts even matter anymore?
Yes,
With this
courts matter.
administration?
Yes,
I mean, the
So
Trump.
courts matter. They're listening to the courts now. Finally.
There is
Took
a
him a minute.
lot to discuss about this situation, and I think that there should be an acknowledgement as well of this person's involvement in Zero Unit, his involvement with the CIA, because I think that this goes into, there's so much more to this story, but we don't have time for that today. We're going to transition into the new Russia-Ukraine peace proposal, which has stirred major debate, as we know. So my question to you is, does this peace framework risk conceding too much territory and security leverage to Russia?
I'll kick this off. Before we went on air, a story just came out that said that Vladimir Putin came out and said that they're ready not only to fight Ukraine, but also Europe if it comes to it, because now he's putting the blame that he doesn't want any peace. He's blaming them for disrupting the negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. At the end of the day, Vladimir Putin does not want a peace deal unless it's them getting a ton of land and letting them not get into NATO, not letting them in the EU. He's a dictator. He does not want this. And let's say there's a peace deal that's written. I do not believe that he will follow it because he doesn't want it. He doesn't want it. And his military is failing. This operation has been a failure. And now he's trying to save it in these peace deals.
Everybody, what did Steve Witkoff say? I mean, obviously you got to paraphrase it. You don't have it memorized. What did Steve Witkoff say to Vladimir Putin about Donald Trump?
You might have to answer that yourself.
Ryan, come on, guess me, Ryan.
I got it.
Make this look like a game show. Hit the buzzer. He said you got to. He said
I'll
you
phone a
got.
friend.
Okay, let's phone a friend. He said you got to please Donald Trump. He said
We
you
all
got to
knew
please
this.
Donald
We all
Trump.
knew this about
Right,
Trump.
right.
We also have to please Putin, though. These are two guys. These are two
They
guys
like being
who
flattered,
They love to be flattered.
They
of
love
course.
being flattered.
Now, I'm not going to go as far as to call Trump a dictator the same way Vladimir Putin is, but I think Putin is getting older. He's getting closer to death. He knows it. He has a legacy to fulfill. He doesn't want to bend the knee to anyone, which is why he's not willing to surrender this war, which is why he's not willing to give anything to Ukraine. And I think he's a mentally unstable person, and we're starting to see more and more of it from as he gets older.
Oh, he's
I mean,
petrified of dying. He's petrified of dying. He disappears for weeks.
I mean, Ukraine, this war really, like, Putin would stand no chance against the rest of Europe, obviously, if he's struggling with Ukraine right now. But this 28-point plan that the Trump administration proposed, it just has no significant concessions from Russia and no guarantees for Ukraine. In fact, it outlines that Ukraine has to start laying down arms and slow down production while Russia can do whatever it wants and maybe to attack again in a couple years if a peace plan is reached, which I think is very likely itself. And also, like, why is Jared Kushner the guy we were sending to negotiate
He was
peace
involved
deals?
with Israel-Hamas deals, so
Yeah,
Trump
but
and
it's
his
like-
son-in-law, nepotism, everything
There's some
like
major
that.
conflict
There
of
was major
interest
conflict
there.
of interest there, but he did succeed on paper with Israel-Hamas deal. So I guess Trump trusts him now. But I think what's more important here is we have to realize that Putin is not going to bend the knee. So we have to really, really ramp up not we, but the government needs to really, really ramp up how hard they go on him, because he's not going to give anything. It's become very obvious now.
But let's also talk about this. Europe has not been a great ally of Ukraine. And it's a shame that Europe in itself has been putting the US in a bad position, because I know that we're supposed to be the ally and we're supposed to be the country that tries to keep the peace. So it's supposed to be. But they have not given the aid that we've given. And eventually they're going to need to start to step in a little bit as well. If they don't want Russia, which they're not, they really can't. Their military is so weak. But if Russia tries to attack one of these other countries, they're also at to blame, because they haven't been helpful to Ukraine in this entire situation.
But to add to what you're saying too, Russia is getting to the point, it's getting infuriated. Remember, he murdered one of his own generals not too long ago in a helicopter. I don't know if any of you remember that. I'm talking about Vladimir Putin. Murdered one of his own generals. He's been releasing prisoners and promising them freedom if they survive the war, if they go serve instead of prison
It's
time.
been happening for a couple of
Yes,
years now.
this is not up there. To your point, this is not anything new. So he's on his last legs here. However, so is Ukraine. Ukraine is displaced. They're well overdue for an election. Republicans love to say that. But I'm just adding to the point that the country is in turmoil right now. It's in a total disaster, and it needs allies. But how much money is the U.S. really going to give it? Now, an interesting conversation. Mike Pence and Donald Trump never agreed on this. Obviously, Mike Pence is not in the game anymore. Was he ever in the game in the first place with decision making? Who knows? But another thing that you missed to point out, but you obviously know, is money is a big player in this situation as well. How much money do these two countries have left? How much money, and not only that, how many more supplies?
How many more people?
How much more supplies is Ukraine going to be able to get, and for how much longer?
And
that's why you almost have to go and move towards a peace plan, even if it pleases
I mean,
Donald Trump.
morale
and
is super
how much
low
do you have
in
left?
Ukraine
And
among
the
their
biggest
military.
buzzword that we're talking about, well, we haven't talked about, is midterms. If, the United States doesn't fund Ukraine, they let this go to a mess, and then, Ukraine potentially falls to Russia. That is extremely
Poland
problematic
next, possibly,
for the
then
2026
whatever else.
midterm elections.
Yeah, I think so. Trump recently accused Zelensky of zero gratitude, because obviously Zelensky has had a very strong position on this peace deal. And I think that Putin hopes that Trump will get eventually really frustrated with Zelensky and, back out of fully supporting him. I think that's kind of where we're heading, but we will see. So that is all the time that we have for today. We will continue to follow the larger implications of the immigration impacts of Afghans in this country and the developing, long-awaited peace treaty. This is also Jackson's last show, so
Yep.
we will miss him.
Yeah, my closing words would be this: it's been an honor, it's been a privilege. I mean, this is my fourth semester as a politics panel member. I'm aware someone else on this panel. It's also his last episode, so I want to give him a shout out as well, Mr. Ryan Lowy.
Gonna be missing 2
Any
legends.
words?
I mean, so wow, I started this, we started this a little over, I think 2 years ago now, right?
It was founded December of 23.
Right. So we started this on a little show that some of you may know called Nittany Talk. I'm getting wrapped up, but I'm going to talk a little longer. Everyone. I'm sorry. It's very emotional for Jackson and I. We started this little over, you said, what was the date again?
It was founded December 23. The show started in January
Right.
2024.
Okay. So that was the date that we started it. So we were originally on a little known show that many of you may know called Nittany Talk. Before it was very funny. It actually had the politics panel
It did.
all that time ago. And when people walk through the studio, they don't realize they're walking by a very beautiful photo. And it's me like this. I don't know why my head was up like that, but it's a very nice photo of the original politics panel. And here we are, I think we're 3 or 4 panels later. And I think we've done a very good job. Very professional crowd. I'm very proud of what we built.
Yes.
I hope that when I return here 6 or 7 years in the future, when I'm even more washed, I'm going to see this thing still going, right? That's the goal. I think we're going to be able to get there. I'm proud of everyone. I know I sound like a joke. I know you're all like, Ryan, just stop talking. But this is very, very sad. It really is.
It's a sad day.
Because,
Yes.
but good times come. Okay, yeah, just take it away.
You
got it,
I'm
Vita.
at a loss of words,
Happy
everyone. I'm
holidays.
staring at the
We
ceiling.
wish you all the best holidays. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Vita. Next, we're going to send it over
I know,
to
I was getting
Gracie,
wound up.
who delved deep into the inner workings of the White House, but not the political side, the decorating side. Gracie?
Wow.
I loved it.
I think you edited in the most
All right,
roundabout
guys.
way possible.
What?
Thank you, Emma. It's once again the most wonderful time of the year. And tonight, we'll take a look at the holiday tradition that stretches back more than a century, the First Lady's decorating of the White House. and why this year's celebration will look very different. It all began in 1889 when First Lady Caroline Harrison set up the very first White House Christmas tree. Since then, First Ladies have played a defining role in shaping the look and feel of the holidays inside the executive mansion. Eleanor Roosevelt brought a new sense of public service to the tradition, hosting holiday events for underprivileged children and using decorations to spotlight charitable causes. Later, Pat Nixon expanded the display in the 1970s, introducing the first gingerbread house crafted by White House pastry chefs, a centerpiece that remains a favorite today. Jacqueline Kennedy set the modern standard in 1961 with the first official theme, the Nutcracker Suite, inspiring decades of themed decorations that tell a story about the country and the moments Americans are living in. As the responsibility of decorating passed to each First Lady, the tradition evolved and became even more significant. Nancy Reagan added festive glamour in the 1980s. Barbara Bush decorated with miniature books to highlight literacy. And First Lady Michelle Obama centered her designs around military families and national service. More recently, Dr. Jill Biden focused on unity and hope, reminding Americans that the White House is, above all, the people's house. This year, First Lady Melania Trump has decorated the White House to the theme, "Home is where the heart is." But things are not looking the same. With the East Wing currently under demolition, one of the most familiar backdrops for holiday displays is gone, including areas often used for the Gold Star tree, staging for volunteer decorators, and several high-traffic hallways that millions recognize from past holiday tours. The construction has forced the White House to rethink its holiday layout. Decorations have been moved, redesigned, or completely reimagined to fit the temporary space. Some traditional display spots simply will not exist this year. Also different is a 6,000-piece Lego portrait of President Trump, paired alongside a Lego portrait of President George Washington, something which has never been done before. Officials say the spirit of the season remains intact. Volunteers and staff adjusted quickly, spreading the decor into other wings and focusing on creating a warm holiday experience despite the disruption. So, while the East Wing may be missing, the message is the same. The White House holiday tradition continues, adaptive, resilient, and still dedicated to welcoming Americans into their house, and a celebration that's been shaped by First Ladies for generations. Back to you, Emma.
Thanks, Gracie. Now let's send it over to the crime panel to discuss a Christmas crime from almost 100 years ago. Over to you, Eva.
Thanks, Emma. With Christmas right around the corner, it's time to blend some holiday cheer with a bit of robbery and deceit. And this next crime does just that. On December 23rd, 1927, in the small town of Cisco, Texas, Marshall Ratliff disguised himself as Santa Claus and walked into the First National Bank. He and 3 armed accomplices attempted a daylight robbery that quickly spiraled into a massive shootout as townspeople armed themselves and fought in the streets. The chaos sparked what became the largest manhunt in Texas history, ending in multiple deaths, captured fugitives, and the mob lynching of the man behind the Santa suit. Now, Savannah, I'm going to throw it over to you to start. Give us a little more context about this crime.
All right, so it's December 23rd, 1927, which is 2 days before Christmas in Cisco, Texas. Now, Marshall Ratliff, as you had mentioned, was an ex-con, and he came up with this brilliant idea to dress up as Santa to commit a bank robbery. So what exactly happened? Ratliff walked through downtown Cisco in full-on Santa suit. Okay, he left no stone unturned. He even waved at little children as he was walking down the street, which I think is a little bit twisted.
Yes.
But a mother and child quickly recognized, they're like, something's not right with this Santa. Something's wrong. So they alerted authorities. So Ratliff and his 3 accomplices couldn't rob the bank. Now, this led to a massive shootout. More than 200 townspeople armed themselves and surrounded the bank. Now, in Texas in this time, a lot of civilians had guns. This wasn't uncommon. So the aftermath was of this giant shootout. 2 policemen were unfortunately killed and many civilians were wounded. Now, the robbers did escape briefly with hostages, but were eventually taken into custody. Now, Ratliff himself had escaped jail once, but this enraged civilians. So he was captured and brought back to jail. But the civilians were so enraged that an angry mob took him out of the jail and lynched him.
Insane, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, Sam, you want to touch on that a little more?
Yeah, so I'm going to cover the sentencing in depth, but something I want to note is during this period of time, I know you guys are probably like, why are you talking about a crime? It was almost 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think it is really interesting to see how different crime is today and how it's handled versus back then. I mean, during this time, 3 to 4 banks were being robbed any day, and law enforcement was offering a $5,000 reward to anyone who shot a robber while they were robbing the bank.
Legally, which is crazy.
Legally,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
yeah.
That would never be seen today.
No.
So, like Savannah was saying, after an intense manhunt, 2 men were taken into custody. Hill was sentenced to 99 years in prison after pleading guilty. He was not one of the ones that shot and killed the robber, so he was just sentenced to 99 years in prison. He escaped prison 3 times, but then was recaptured. A man named Helms, the last name, Helms, killed an officer and was sentenced to death, and he was executed by electric chair in 1929. So a very quick turnaround, which we also don't normally see today.
Yes.
When people receive death sentences today, they're on death row for, I mean, could be up to like 50 years. Or life even. So our main Santa man, Radcliffe, he was first convicted of armed robbery, 99 years in prison, but then he was sentenced to death because he was believed to be one of the men that shot and killed the police officers. That being said, though, there weren't a lot of witnesses to this, so they so he appealed it and then began to act insane. I mean, insane to the point where he had his prison mates showering him, putting him into bed, clothing him. This man,
He was committed to the bit.
He was committed to the
Yeah.
bit, and he attempted to escape. And then one of the most interesting things, and why we chose this crime for this week, is because 1,000 law-abiding citizens gathered mob style, which I like to think of it like a movie. I know we were talking about
this
it,
earlier.
like Wicked, when they're mobbing to go get Alphabet. I'm really
It's March of the Witch
That's
Hunter.
what
I
it
know,
is.
that's what it
Yes.
is.
Any excuse for us to talk about Wicked.
Exactly.
We will bring it up.
Always.
Rushed in
Always.
and dragged him out of the jail and publicly lynched him, which is crazy, something we would never see today. And his body was put on display and viewed in a furniture store, which just goes to show how different crime is back then and today. And Christmas crime, it is crazy.
I think that's what they used to do with pirates back in the day. Is they would display the
I know
pirates
exactly
so
what you're
other
talking
pirates
about.
would be like scared and would ward them off.
Yeah, I think I read that nobody was charged with the lynching either.
Yes.
So it's like that would never happen today.
No.
It's insane.
Yeah, they got no one to testify as witnesses,
Yeah,
so they were just able to go
I
ahead
mean,
with
the
that.
$5,000 if you shoot a robber,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Karen,
It is, I think, just to kind of as a caveat off of that, just talking about the police presence first, just in this case, and as you said, with multiple banks being robbed all throughout Texas, just daily, this was just such a common occurrence, and it makes so much sense. I mean, unfortunately, being mobbed and lynched, that's not a good thing, not condoning that, but it makes sense as to why, the civilians in this town, they had that anger and they felt the need to take matters into their own hands. It was reported all over the news that, finally when Ratliff was put into custody because, he had been to Cisco before, he'd done this before, people were completely outraged why he was not found sooner, why he was not caught sooner, when he went through the town on his first round of crimes. So it just, again, it goes to show just the way that we handle these crimes just from a police standpoint is obviously very different. And then with the media as well, everything that I have read, this is reported to be the most infamous crime in the entire state of Texas. People saying that, these criminals, outshined Billy the Kid, and that it's still, we're still having the conversation about it, 100 years later, just because I just think just what it was. I feel unique is the wrong word, but perhaps it works, just kind of it seems like there's a rarity around this case and a lot of the danger that, these 4 men went through, and then dressing up as Santa, walking around, waving to kids before you rob a bank.
Do you think that's why he did it? Do you think he did it for more attention?
I just think he
I
dressed
think
up as Santa just for a cover.
I think he's kind of using it because he knows that's like such a symbol. I mean, who's gonna accuse
And
a
we've
Santa
seen that
of
in
robbing
more
him?
recent crimes too, where
Yes.
people dress up as characters. I know we've talked about many,
Yeah.
like dressing up as clowns and Santa. I feel like this was one of the first ones where someone used a disguise like this to fulfill their plan.
I agree.
It reminds me a lot, just like with kind of, I feel like the chaos and the costuming. I would just kept getting John Wayne Gacy. The way, like you said, with the clowns, the way he like held on to that character, that clown costume, that persona, and he really used that as an outlet for his crimes. I think part of it was strategic as well. You know, someone sees a Santa walking around at Christmas time, just gonna let him pass, thinking they're walking to a nearby mall. But I also kind of think I think that with the costuming and the character of Santa, I think that Ratliff like held on to that and used that as kind of an outlet for this particular crime, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I also think it's worth noting that when Police Chief Bedford was dying after being shot on the scene, he actually claimed that he was shot by a blonde woman. And this was dismissed by many of the police officers because they thought that there was only 4 male robbers at the scene of the crime. But they soon found a stash of loot buried on the property of Josephine Heron, who was coincidentally the seamstress of the Santa costume, which I think is a very interesting coincidence. She died in 1960, and her connection to the shooting was never proven. But many people, especially in Cisco, believe that there was a woman shooter who just got away with it.
And I feel like that has something to say about the roles of gender roles during this time. I mean, no one would have expected a female. That's very interesting.
Very interesting. I wonder, even, you know, allegedly with her involvement, what could she have to gain from that? Maybe they were like, hey, if you make us a Santa suit, we'll split some of the bank money.
Right, they might have said that.
That's strange. I feel like, though, I mean, if she is a seamstress and she has her own business, it's a very high risk. I mean, obviously, depending on how much money it is, but I feel like it's a very high risk to, you know, if you have a steady business. I'm assuming, you know, back in that time, possibly she could have been a wife, a mother, to get involved with a crime like this. It seems very risky.
Yeah, that's really
definitely.
risky, very rare.
Yeah. So to transition, I kind of wanted to talk about crimes in the holiday season in general.
Yeah.
So over the years, FBI crime data statistics have shown an increase in financially motivated property crimes, increasing during the holiday season. For example, studies in Florida revealed that December burglary rates averaged 88.5 incidents per 100,000 people between the years of 2020 and 2023, which is nearly 4 times the national December average.
Wow.
The most common crimes that occur during the holiday season are shoplifting, cyber crimes, DUIs, and domestic violence. And of course, these crimes happen for a variety of reasons. And the most common is economic stress. People who cannot afford gifts for their friends, family members, they resort to shoplifting and theft out of desperation. You know, they feel like they have no other option. And this connects to cyber crimes, which are often financially motivated. We've all heard of phishing emails.
Yes.
They're common, with scammers disguising as charities, asking for donations, or prompting users to enter their bank account information. Another common motivator is simply that there's more opportunity. As we know, many crimes are opportunistic, and AAA actually reported that almost 80 million people traveled at least 50 miles for Thanksgiving last year, leaving their houses unattended, vulnerable for burglary. And then, of course, there's more alcohol consumption during holiday family gatherings, which leads to a higher number of DUIs and domestic violence charges. So overall, it really shows that holiday crime can really hurt communities and lead residents to feel unsafe in their own homes. And it also places a burden on small businesses because they must deal with the consequences of shoplifting and theft. And of course, that takes away from their profits.
Of course.
So overall,
even now, relating it to, I was reading the news the other day and I saw like a gunman came in and shot a mall during Black Friday shopping, just crimes like that, that people really take advantage of this holiday time to commit crime.
People are desperate. Yeah.
Well, I also want to say with that desperation, it's interesting that the holidays is when the most increase of depression and self-harm occurs, which I think could potentially relate to these crimes too.
Holidays have a lot on the mental health, especially for people going through things. So I mean, it kind of makes sense.
I think it definitely does make sense, and I love the fact that you brought that up, the seasonal depression, because I mean, really, if you think about that, I just feel like it snowballs. You're welcome. Truly, though, I feel like it does. It snowballs. It is one thing after the other. If you are dealing, you're in an unstable mental state. You're dealing with that, depression, and then perhaps you are drinking a little bit more, and then perhaps you get that DUI, and then, you get a little bit angry, you start getting more and more in trouble with the police, and then it gets to the point where maybe your stress breaks and you're like, you know what, everyone's here, stores are full, and unfortunately, I feel like that can lead to something bad, like someone walking into a store on Black Friday and unfortunately taking out their anger violently on other people.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, all that being said, everyone have an amazing holiday.
I was gonna say, this is a crime-free holiday.
This is
We're
a
not
crime-free
gonna
holiday.
any of this.
We're gonna enjoy ourselves. So
I think
hopefully.
that's a really important service announcement to just say, and that's the
Yeah.
point why we do this crime panel, is not just to discuss crimes that are occurring, but
raise some awareness.
raise awareness
absolutely.
to those situations.
No, I want to get some opinions because I thought the most interesting thing about this crime was how the entire community came together. Again, like me and Sam said, it's kind of like a scene out of a movie. Everyone was like shooting in the street. There were so many people involved. What do you guys think about that?
I think in some twisted way, it kind of makes a point and goes to show that even in horrible times, communities still come together. We saw that after 9/11. I feel like, it's on a different scale, but communities come together to kind of right a wrong. And I feel like that's super important. And of course, publicly lynching somebody and how they handled it is not acceptable today. But for the time, I'm trying to word this correctly, I feel like it was done in a good intention.
They did the best that they could with the information that they had in the time that they had.
Yes, it's definitely a testament to community. And I actually saw online that there is a mural in the Prosperity Bank building of Cisco. And the mural includes the original bank building and the getaway car with Santa in the front seat. So it's basically like folklore at this point in Cisco. And it just, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I
also think it's important to note that the holidays are such a happy time that crime really, I feel like, holds more of an effect during this holiday time. Because it is such a happy time.
Yeah, I mean, people were sick of it. They were like, we're going to take matters into our own hands. We're going to stop this. We're going to support our community and each other.
In a small way, it reminds me of the French Revolution. Just like a little bit.
There we go.
Right.
Like everyone, giant mobs.
I know,
storming that sense of community, storming the streets and
There's some
everything like
similarities
that.
in a lot of things.
And I also think Santa is such a, kids look up to Santa. And I just think using that figure as a way to commit a crime is just so interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, waving to kids. I mean, Santa is not he's an icon. I mean, everyone knows him. Everyone loves him. So to kind of use that and then to go commit this crime is insane to me. It's wild.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else we have to say about this crime or
crazy?
All right.
Everyone have a happy holiday. Have a safe holiday. Please.
Happy holiday.
No
Everyone be safe.
crimes, no
Enjoy
evil
yourselves.
Santas.
Yes. Eat good food.
Be aware of the Santas.
Be aware. Every time you see a Santa,
I'm just kidding. I love
Keep
it.
that seasonal depression in check, guys.
Watch out, guys. Everyone be safe. So that is it from us here at the Crime Panel. Everyone have an amazing and safe holiday, and we will see you guys next semester. Back to you, Emma.
Thanks, Eva. Once again, we're going to send it over to Gracie, who's going to give us a review of President Trump's first year of his second term in office.
Thanks, Emma. As President Donald Trump marks the end of his first year back in office for his second term, the administration faces a turbulent political environment defined by policy disputes, economic pressure, and steadily declining approval ratings. To start, immigration policy once again dominated national discussion. ICE expanded enforcement operations, leading to increases in arrests and deportations, including cases involving long-term residents, United States citizens, and individuals without criminal histories. Administration officials said the actions upheld the law. Immigrant rights groups and several city governments, however, warned of due process concerns, family disruptions, and detention facilities operating near or above capacity. The Trump administration's enforced immigration policies have been deemed illegal in several courts throughout the country, but still continue, making this one of the year's most emotionally charged issues. Within the federal government, the newly restructured Department of Government Efficiency, created to streamline operations and reduce spending, drew scrutiny. While the administration praised the department's efforts to cut bureaucracy, internal reports and watchdog groups pointed to disorganization, unclear mandates, and delays that complicated coordination across agencies. The Department of Government Efficiency was officially dismantled in late November. The economy experienced uneven performance, driven in part by new rounds of tariffs on key trading partners. Manufacturers reported higher production costs, farmers faced declining export opportunities, and consumers saw elevated prices in several sectors. Economists warned that continued trade pressure may dampen growth into the coming year. Trump's tariffs have been deemed illegal and have been appealed to the Supreme Court, where a decision is currently being awaited. A major political flashpoint came during the extended government shutdown, triggered by disagreements over federal spending priorities. Among the most widely felt impacts was the temporary suspension of SNAP benefits, affecting millions of families who rely on the program for food assistance. The shutdown ended only after bipartisan pressure mounted on both Congress and the White House. The Department of Health faced backlash after releasing inconsistent statements that led to public confusion about federal vaccine guidance. State health officials cited challenges in delivering clear messaging as federal recommendations shifted multiple times throughout the year. Foreign policy presented another set of challenges. While supporters of the president's America First approach argued that Trump stood firm against unfavorable trade deals and outdated security arrangements, critics said the lack of diplomatic coordination weakened America's influence abroad and left key alliances unsettled. Analysts noted that abrupt policy shifts often made it difficult for allies and federal agencies to plan long-term. A major contention emerged within the Defense Department as allegations of a war crime involving illegal orders to bomb boats off the coast of Venezuela prompted congressional review. The administration denied wrongdoing, but the allegations sparked debate over oversight, vetting, and accountability in military leadership. Meanwhile, American families are bracing for significant financial strain as healthcare costs are expected to triple at the end of this month under new insurance regulations. Consumer advocates warn that the increases could push essential coverage out of reach for many households unless legislative action is taken. Across the country, dissatisfaction with federal leadership materialized in the form of No Kings protests, a growing movement criticizing what participants see as overreach by the executive branch. Demonstrations remained largely peaceful, but drew substantial crowds in major cities throughout the year. All of this unfolds against the backdrop of a tumbling approval rating for the president, showing a 36%, the lowest of his second term. As the administration enters its second year, the nation watches closely to see whether policy adjustments, legislative negotiations, or shifting political pressures will alter the course set by the past 12 months. Back to you, Emma.
Thanks, Gracie. Now we're going to send it over to the history panel to play a little holiday game. So put your thinking caps on. Kara.
Thank you, Emma. With the upcoming holiday season, celebrations and traditions are out and about. So today, we are going to have a little festive showdown to see which unique holiday tradition, is truly the jolliest. Our panelists today have picked one unique holiday tradition from around the world. And even though it is not March, there's going to be a little bit of madness because we are going to vote and see which one is best, and we're going to put it together in our bracket. And in addition, everyone is going to share a lovely family holiday tradition that they do as well. Are we excited, guys?
Yeah. Are we ready to go?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone looks great. I'm loving the hats.
Yeah, thank you for wearing one, Nikolai.
You are welcome.
I wore red. Okay.
She wore red.
Your hair is
My
red.
hair is red now.
Tyler,
what is your excuse, Tyler?
What's your excuse?
I didn't have time and I didn't have money and I forgot.
It's saving up for those Christmas presents.
So
That
did
is
a lot too much Black Friday damage. So
Black Friday and Cyber Monday will get you.
Absolutely.
When you're not expecting it.
Yeah. I spent $10 on Black Friday.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What'd you got?
it's impressive.
I bought a workout set for, not like a set, like workout shorts.
Okay, we love to hear about your workout set. However, we have our first holiday tradition behind me, lovely Shay. This is yours. Would you like to tell us what this is all about?
Course.
Please.
So, It all starts in Ukraine, right? There's a family. They're really broke. They're kind of like me on Black Friday, right? Like they got like no money, so they got to get like creative. Anyway, a pine cone, I don't really know how this happens, but a pine cone falls. They live in a hut, by the way. They live in a hut, so their floor is just like the earth. A pine cone falls on their floor. This pine cone like bursts into a tree, right? And the kids want to decorate the tree. But
Yes.
they can't decorate the tree because they have no money to buy like anything to decorate the tree with.
Again, because of Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Exactly. So
Yes.
anyway,
Yeah,
Christmas
okay,
morning happens and they wake up and the tree's covered in cobwebs and they're like really sad. They're like, oh man, our tree's so ugly. But then they open the windows and the sunlight hits the tree and the cobwebs. And as soon as the sunlight hits the cobwebs turn into gold and silver. And then they had money because gold and silver are like money.
Oh,
And they weren't broke anymore.
I like that. I also really like, I feel like, you know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, people usually freak out about spiders and spider webs, kind of taking something with more of a negative connotation and turning it into something positive like that.
Exactly.
I really like that. I think this is super unique. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing. Okay, versus Shay, we have lovely. This is personal tradition. Oh, would you like to talk
this is
about
my personal
my bad?
tradition.
I'm so sorry. Please talk about your
Yes,
personal
of
tradition
course.
first.
So
Before
my-
we get to the competition.
Yes. So
Please
my
share.
stepmom makes us go for New Year's and Christmas to this church in New York.
Mhm.
I picked this because it's kind of interesting that
Beautiful.
like on New Year's Day we go here. You know what else happens in New York on New Year's Day? The ball drops. So like it is crowded. We have to go through that traffic like all the time. It is
Yes.
a gorgeous church though. It is literally it is stunning. It is
That's
also very
beautiful.
crowded in there.
I'm sure.
But it's very peaceful and it's kind of nice. It's like, you know, I'm not around all the corporate slop in Times Square and you're kind of like with your family. So I like that.
I like
that.
Well, that is a gorgeous location. Thank you so much for sharing that with
Yeah, of
us. That is
course.
wonderful. Okay, so now moving on to the competition part. We have versus Shay, we have Lauren. This is the holiday tradition you picked for
Yes,
us. So
it
can you
is.
please explain to everyone what it is?
Okay, I think mine's really good. Sorry, Shay. No, I'm kidding. Yours is good too. So I chose the feast day of Saint Nicholas, which takes place in Germany, but also in other European countries. So this is celebrated on December 6th, so the beginning of the holiday season. Children will put clean shoes outside of their houses, and then in the morning they're filled with treats like money, candy, different things like that.
Oh, I love
and
that.
if you're naughty, they're filled with coal and just like no good things. But the point of this holiday is to reward good behavior and kindness, but it also kicks off the holiday season just of everyone giving each other things and just like the feeling of family and like the festivities and stuff like that. So, yeah.
That's awesome. It's very similar to stockings, kind of.
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
shoes outside of the door.
Yeah.
I have heard of this before, so that is really awesome. Thank you for sharing. And then your personal,
my personal
yes,
tradition.
please share with us your personal
so
holiday tradition.
My personal holiday tradition is just another holiday. So like I tag it on to Christmas. So this is Three Kings Day. So this takes place on January 6th, and it's celebrated in a lot of Latin American countries. I'm half Puerto Rican, so this means a lot to my mom. So it honors the day the three wise men visited Jesus with gifts. So you're supposed to fill a box with either hay or grass, and you can put it under your bed, or sometimes people will put it outside. And then when you wake up in the morning, the hay and the grass is eaten by the camels, and it's filled with money and gifts and candy. And then like my mom will save a Christmas present she got for us and give us the Christmas present on that day. So yeah, that is
awesome.
it.
Thank you so much for sharing. I will admit I have heard of Three Kings Day and I kind of knew like the premise of the holiday, but I didn't actually know like the kind of like the celebrations and the little rituals for it. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so we have to decide between either Shay's pick or Lauren's pick of their unique holidays. Which one shall move on in our bracket? So we have spiderwebs on trees.
Okay.
And then we have the Feast of St. Nicholas. So guys, what are we thinking? What are we feeling?
I have to say I'm biased. I do celebrate St. Nicholas Day. I do put my shoes out.
Really?
Yes.
I used to do it in high
That's
school.
so cool.
Yes.
Guys, that is
Yeah.
amazing.
So I am
that is amazing.
biased.
Okay.
Well, I have a question for you. Do you like seeing starving children?
I'm just saying I celebrate
Yeah,
the
all right,
holiday.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like
Spider
very.
webs, they had
But,
money.
like,
I put my shoes on. I get a
Yeah.
Lego set. So that's.
Well, they couldn't afford a Lego set, but they know. Yeah, they couldn't do that. They couldn't
Okay.
afford decorations for the Christmas tree.
They
Wow,
use their
that is
resources though, which
really,
is good.
No, like a random pine cone fell into their.
You know, and now people decorate their trees with pine cones. So this kickstarted something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but I still think mine's better.
Okay,
Sorry.
the ladies here are clearly biased. Tyler, do you want to?
Well, for
You
the
have a vote?
exact same reasons Nikolai, I'm biased. I've also grew up celebrating St. Nicholas.
Are you serious?
It's a great holiday.
Well, he's
It's a great
great.
holiday.
Well, exactly.
I have
So-
never heard of anyone celebrating this.
That's
That is
crazy.
really, really cool. That is amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for casting your lovely votes. However, I'm a big boss lady for today, so I'm gonna side with Shay and say that spiderwebs on trees. And because I am amazing and have literally the power of Saint Nick today, Shay moves on, and our lovely winter bracket. So round of applause for Shay.
Okay.
The three sore losers at the table. You gotta swallow it down. You gotta swallow
I
it.
didn't vote against you.
So like I'm out. Like wow, that's it for me.
Well, you get to stay on for the rest of the panel. You're
Oh
welcome.
yay!
You get to be your funny, amazing self for the rest of the
I'm
panel.
sorry, I'm a sore loser. I think if the viewers got to choose, they probably would choose
Okay,
me.
so while we give her a moment to pout, we are going to move on to our next two.
Oh yeah.
So we have Nikolai and Tyler going against each other. Nikolai, I do believe this is the tradition you picked for us. Would you like to tell everyone all
sure
about
is.
the Krampus parade, please?
Krampus, you know you love him. Half man, half goat demon. He goes around, he scares kids because you can't have a good jolly old Saint Nick. You need an antagonist in
Yes.
the holiday
Yeah.
season.
Yes.
Because you can't just go around all these kids being naughty and getting gifts. No, you can't do that. You need an antagonistic force.
You
to
need a
put
Christmas
these...
supervillain.
Have you watched the
literally.
movie Krampus?
I did. It was a scary movie.
It is a
Yeah,
scary movie.
It's a scary movie.
It's very scary.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
in several countries, such as Germany, such as Austria, there is a Krampus parade where everyone dresses up like Krampus in this style, and they go around and they parade. And back in the day, this is a crazy thought. It was called the Krampus Run, where people would be chased down by Krampus.
That sounds
That's
absolutely
crazy.
horrific.
That reminds me of like when the killer clowns were out and they were like chasing kids like
This is, like,
6 years
worse.
ago. That's like that's
And then
worse.
the spiritual tradition was that entrants were supposed to be drunk so that Krampus would want to catch them. So
Oh,
I
my
can
gosh.
see why we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But I think this is important because you need bad to good. Without bad, there's no good.
Nikolai
Exactly.
likes
Yeah.
scaring
Yeah.
children. You heard it here first. He likes scaring
No,
children.
you
It
need-
gets him in the holiday
you need another
spirit.
force.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Okay.
I think he's really in
Okay,
that
well-
holiday spirit.
Move on.
Thank you for sharing. And in addition, would you like to share your would you like to share
Wow.
your very interesting and endearing personal tradition
Yes.
with us,
Yeah.
Nikolai? Please explain.
I
Please.
couldn't think of any really good tradition, so I thought of during Christmas Eve, my family eats garlic and honey as part of the menu. I never discovered why. I asked my grandma, "Why do we do this?" She said, "I don't know." So I looked it up.
And you've heard it here first. I don't know the answer. All
No,
life's
I
problems.
looked up what I guess it represents
Okay.
during
Okay.
So honey is supposed to represent the sweetness of life, and then
Okay.
garlic's supposed to represent the bitterness of life.
Okay.
It's celebrated in Slovak and Russian cultures, and my church is somewhat Slovak, so I think that's why.
That's awesome.
And despite my name, I'm not an ounce Russian, so I don't know.
Is it
He's
good?
a fraud.
Like, is it
Yeah.
good?
I hate whenever I eat it, but it's not.
You know, it's actually, as a side note, so good for your skin.
Garlic.
Garlic, and I mean honey as well, but specifically garlic. It's so good for your
Maybe
skin.
that's why people eat pickled
That's-
garlic. now.
That's why Nikolai
No,
looks
no,
like
I
this,
work at a
ladies and
pizza
gentlemen.
place that puts honey on their
Honey is good. I don't have a problem with the honey.
Yeah,
It's just the
because
garlic.
that's like a normal thing. This isn't normal.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it is normal. Some family
It's normal,
traditions.
Nikolai. We don't
Yeah,
judge
it's normal
here.
too. We
We're
don't
a family
judge.
I
channel.
appreciate
We listen,
Yes.
we don't judge.
Yes.
Moving
Let's move on.
moving on. Next, lovely Tyler. I think you are next world tradition, eating KFC
Absolutely.
on Christmas in Japan. Please tell us all about this.
It's actually between this and Krampus, so I'm glad I went with this.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a thing apparently in Japan. A lot of families would eat KFC on Christmas, and this is actually a tradition that dates back over 50 years.
Wow.
Started originally in 1974 because KFC launched something called the Kentucky for Christmas campaign.
Oh.
That's awesome.
And that was apparently because it was really hard to find turkey in Japan at the time, so most families would just not get it, and KFC became a viable substitute for turkey. And part of it was also KFC marketing it as like a traditional American Yuletide meal, which was kind of deceptive because obviously not as big of a deal here. But yeah, ever since then, for 50 years, it's been an annual thing. In Japan, you can see here is a picture of Colonel Sanders, a statue of him.
That is amazing.
Dressed up as, sort of like Santa.
Santa.
And yeah, they market a lot. They use like holiday themed packaging, and apparently an estimated 3.5 million families in Japan, not people, families, celebrate this.
Wow.
So they got to make reservations at KFC apparently on Christmas as well.
Have you had KFC?
Reservations,
yes, but not on Christmas in Japan.
I've never had KFC.
Really?
Either.
That's crazy.
I've never had it.
Why don't you guys adopt this tradition then?
Yeah, maybe
Understandable.
KFC for Christmas.
KFC for Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Would you also like to share your personal family
so this
tradition?
isn't anything new. This is actually my family celebrating St. Nicholas.
That's the Feast of St. Nicholas. That's awesome.
Not so much a personal tradition. Actually, I haven't done it in 7 or 8 years at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was something I did growing up as a kid. It was actually my mom would just leave things in boots for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just something we would get filled with like candy and toys and stuff. And yeah.
Did you ever get cold?
I don't think so. I think my sister did one year. But,
Whoa.
Wait,
she deserved it. I mean,
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, you know what? Okay. Speaking of deserving, boys, thank you for sharing both of your non-traditional holiday traditions with us. But we do have to decide another winner to move on in our bracket. So what are we thinking, feeling, thoughts, feeling? Everyone is allowed to talk except for Lauren Perry. The other
Okay, full name drop. Thank you very much.
I'm kidding.
I don't want to vote for either of them because they don't vote for me.
Okay,
No,
so
I would vote for you. I just
Shay is sitting out.
I'm not on Shay's side. I want one of them to beat her.
Okay.
But I think I'm going to go with Krampus because
Krampus Parade.
Yeah, because I think, like Nikolai said, you always got to have like a bad to a good. You know?
Exactly.
So you also like scaring children. Noted.
No, but like you need that balance. You need that balance.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate
Well, and
Yeah, you got my
obviously,
vote.
okay, so that's Lauren's vote. Shay is notably sitting this one out, and obviously, boys, you're voting for your own. I will have to say, everyone's was great. However, I am going to side with Nikolai on the Krampus Parade, and because I am big boss lady, Krampus Parade will be moving on because I like Krampus. I saw the movie, and I thought the parade was really interesting. So we are down to our final two, guys. We have
You need to
spider
beat
webs
her.
on Christmas trees or scaring poor innocent children. So
As an education major, I just want to say,
Shay gets
think
the speaker
kids are the
piece.
future of our world. I think they deserve joy and love and laughter and
Yep.
so much Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, period.
And I mean, you got a little sneak peek, folks, but you just
And
They
spider
heard that
webs do
argument. They were like,
they were like absolutely.
yeah.
And Nikolai, would you like to give a small closing for the Krampus Parade?
Without evil, there could be no good. So it must be good to be evil sometimes.
Whoa.
Not the kids.
All right. So
that one too.
Big Boss Lady has decided that we are not going to torture children. We will save that for Halloween. So putting spider webs on Christmas trees is going to win our holiday festival bracket. Shay, thank you very much. Congratulations. Round of applause for Shay. No one believed in her. Now we have two sore losers on the right side of the table. Shay, congratulations, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your personal traditions and for finding these. That was really wonderful. Great job, everyone. And that is all the time that we have for today. On behalf of everyone here at the History Panel, we wish you happy holidays, a safe winter break, and hopefully you guys learned something about different traditions and maybe found one you want to adopt into your own holiday festival season. I think that's it. Yeah, thank you guys so much, and we will be back next season. Back to you, Emma. Sadly, that is all the time we have for today and for our 4th season. We're glad you stuck around and we hope you enjoyed our content. In the meantime, stay updated with ATD on all our socials at PSU at the desk. And let us know what you want to see us cover next. I'm Emma Goldkoff, and we'll see you back at the desk for season 5 after winter break. Happy holidays.
Oh.